Americans are unaware of an organization called Socialist International. However, it appears that this organization is on the brink of taking over the entire world. Today, we will learn about the Socialist International and also interview senior editor for the New American Magazine, Mr. William Jasper. Stay tuned for Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on Earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it.
Mr. William Jasper is going to be our special guest today on Politics and Religion. He is senior editor for the New American Magazine. We're going to be talking today about the pervasiveness of socialism in our world, and in particular, focusing on the Socialist International. Now, the average American doesn't really know anything about the Socialist International. However, you should. It's critical because there is much evidence that we are this close, that we are just on the brink of the Socialist International ruling the world and ushering all of us into a one world socialist government. It is absolutely that serious. So it's going to be very important for us to learn today, and Mr. William Jasper is one of the foremost experts in our world on the subject of the Socialist International. I believe we do have Mr. Jasper on the line with us today. William, are you there?
I'm here. It's a pleasure being on with you.
So nice to have you. We appreciate all the work you've done through the years. I've read many of your articles and your books. Appreciate them so very much. You've written extensively about the Socialist International, and the average American simply does not know much about that, if anything. Can you sort of give us a quick overview? What's that really all about?
Well, the Socialist International is an international global organization which brings together the various socialist and many of them actual communist parties from around the world, actual political parties, including many of those which are in power and ruling as socialist regimes and communist regimes in various parts of the world, as well as other political socialist and communist political parties that are out of power currently in various countries around the world, and then as well organizations that are not political parties per se, but maybe coalitions and organizations such as the Democratic Socialists of America, or the affiliated with them, the House Progressive Caucus, which includes members of Congress that are affiliated with the Socialist International. Now, the Socialist International holds congresses, big meetings and conferences all over the world, and bring together thousands of delegates from all of these socialist organizations and governments and political parties to help push a global agenda calling for world socialism and world government. And they trace their lineage back proudly, they claim, to Karl Marx, back to the first, what was called the First International, founded in London in the 1860s. And they don't, there are lots of different socialist groups who claim that lineage, but there is a direct descent of sorts going clear back from the current Socialist International to the First International. And I've been following them for many years. As you pointed out, most Americans have never even heard of this organization, but it is one of the most powerful and influential in the world. And its members are leaders of government, of major governments. In fact, recently we just saw in Australia the government of Prime Minister Kevin Rudd was replaced. He stepped down, but the new Prime Minister who took over as the Labour government there, Julia Gillard, is also a member of the Labour Party, which is one of the major parties in the Socialist International. The government of Spain, the government of Greece, of course, which just went bankrupt under George Papandreou, is a Socialist International party. In fact, George Papandreou, the president of Greece, is the president of the Socialist International. In other words, he's been elected to temporarily lead it. So this is quite a sterling membership of socialist organizations that have bankrupted their countries and are pushing all the rest of us to bail them out, and to all at the same time expand government at all levels to have a global government which will control everything, which will redistribute the wealth according to the dictates of the socialists who run it. So this is a very influential organization, and we should be aware of it, because at every United Nations convention and summit, and I've attended many of them and have reported on many of them, the Socialist International plays a very crucial central role, and they have for decades, and they will continue to do so.
Okay, so now, William, I first became familiar with the Socialist International back when I was really interested in Willy Brandt, who became the Prime Minister of Germany, and he had this policy called détente. He was that was, of course, back at the height of the Cold War, but he started breaking down the Iron Curtain and conducting policies and negotiations with the communist world. And I became aware at that time that he, at that time, was president of the Socialist International. Then it came out, I guess, a little later that one of his right-hand people was, in fact, a KGB spy on his staff. And it was later discovered that he was surrounded by different communists. I think that finally forced him to resign from power. But that was quite an eye-opener. He was championed as a great world revolutionary leader, and then all of a sudden